In the year 1348, when Europe reeled under plague and paranoia, a humble physician named Gerard of Rouen faced a death more terrifying than the disease itself. He had treated the sick without fear, believing in faith over flight, but soon whispers spread that he was spreading the pestilence, not curing it. One night, villagers dragged Gerard from his hut, his apothecary jars smashing beneath their feet like bones breaking. His cries for mercy vanished beneath the sound of church bells tolling for the dead. At dawn, he was brought before the town square, tied to a wooden chair above a pit of smoldering coals. The townsfolk believed burning him alive would purge the devil's poison from their air. Gerard's beard caught first, the flames climbing like serpents up his chest and arms. His body convulsed violently, his outline flickering in the heat like a shadow struggling to remain whole. When his screams ceased, the villagers cheered, but the air reeked of burning flesh and oil, and guilt hung heavier than smoke. Weeks later, another man, Sir Aldred of Kent, met his own gruesome fate, not from flame but from greed. Aldred had plundered relics from a monastery, boasting that no saint could curse the living. That night, his feast turned to horror when wine spilled across the relic, glowing faintly as if alive. His body twisted violently, veins bulging like black vines beneath his pale skin. Servants fled as his mouth filled with blood and laughter all at once, echoing off the stone walls. By morning, Aldred's corpse was found rigid, his tongue blackened and eyes still open in disbelief. The monks who retrieved his body claimed they heard faint laughter when they touched his cold hands. They buried him outside consecrated ground, beneath a crooked cross that no one dared to repair. In that age, death was not just an end. It was a warning carved into flesh, whispered through fire and fear. In the winter of 1421, the fortress of Bragan lay silent beneath a sky thick with ash. Inside its walls, Baron Conrad the Cruel prepared a punishment that would be remembered for generations. A stable boy had been caught stealing bread, a crime Conrad deemed worthy of spectacle. The Baron ordered the boy sealed inside an unused wine barrel with only his head exposed. Honey was poured over the boy's face, glistening under torchlight as flies gathered instantly. He was left in the courtyard, where sun and insects would serve as executioners. For 3 days, the boy screamed until his voice dissolved into dry whispers, his skin alive with crawling black dots. When silence finally came, Conrad ordered another barrel prepared for his own cook who had secretly pitied the child. The same honey, the same insects, the same mercy denied twice. But justice came quietly that night. The servants poisoned Conrad's wine with the same honey he had used to kill. When he drank, his throat closed, as though the insects had returned to feed. His final breath came out as a wheeze that sounded almost like laughter from inside a barrel. Years later, peasants uncovered the barrels, the skeletons within coated in hardened amber. The villagers called them the honey dead and left the remains untouched out of fear the curse would return. Not far away, in the Abbey of Fenwick, another fate unfolded. Quieter, but no less cruel. A scribe accused of altering scripture was sentenced to be erased by his own hand. Each word he had written was scraped from parchment with a blade until the knife slipped, and his throat opened instead. They buried him with the same parchment that ended his life, his blood still visible between the lines of holy text. In the spring of 1289, King Alaric of Morvagne sought a punishment that would make rebellion unthinkable. His victim was Lord Fenton, a noble accused of plotting treason, but his only crime was honesty. The king ordered a crown forged from molten iron, heavy enough to break a man's neck if he stumbled. On the day of execution, Fenton was forced to kneel before the court as the red-hot crown was brought forth on iron tongs. 2 guards held him still as the iron was pressed onto his head, the sizzle louder than his screams. The smell of burning flesh filled the hall. Even the king turned his face away. When the crown finally cooled, it fused to his skull, his title sealed forever in agony. His body was displayed at the castle gates with a sign reading, "Loyalty is eternal." But rebellion did not end. It only learned silence. Decades later, deep beneath that same castle, a darker cruelty took shape. The rat chamber. Prisoners were locked in a sealed pit with a single metal bucket placed over their stomachs. A live rat was dropped inside, and the bucket's rim was sealed with wax and flame. As the metal grew hot, the rat's only escape was downward, into the flesh it stood upon. Screams echoed through the dungeon, fading into gurgling sobs as the creature burrowed into the body. When guards finally lifted the bucket, there was silence, and something still moving beneath the ribs. The chamber was sealed that night, but the stench lingered for years. Those who served the king swore they sometimes heard squeals rising from beneath the floorboards. In Morvagne, crowns and rats became the same symbol. Both devoured those who wore them. In the year 1352, in the remote village of Varennes, the church built a pyre to cleanse what it called impurity. At its heart stood a girl of 16, accused of lying with spirits after lightning struck her home. They called her the Burning Virgin, believing her untouched body had tempted the storm itself. When the torches touched the straw, she began to pray instead of scream. Her voice carried through the crackling air, soft but steady, like a hymn sung to deaf gods. The wind shifted, sparks leapt toward the watching crowd, setting alight the robes of the very priest who condemned her. They said her spirit had answered the flames with fire of its own. By dawn, nothing remained but ash, a twisted cross, and footprints burned into the stone. For years, villagers swore they heard her voice in every storm that passed over Varen. Far north, in the fortress of Carden, another death was being built, stone by stone. Lord Roderick, obsessed with immortality, commanded masons to build him a tower of bones. When supplies ran short, he ordered his prisoners to fill the gaps. Mortared alive, their muffled screams became part of the tower's foundation. At night, the walls groaned like something breathing beneath stone. One evening, as Roderick dined atop the tower, the foundation shuddered. The tower began to crumble, bones snapping like dry twigs as it fell inward. When the dust cleared, nothing stood but a mound of pale fragments, shaped eerily like a human rib cage. The peasants called it the tower that ate its master, and built no monument, only silence. In 1349, when the Black Death reached the town of Dunsmuir, no priest dared to ring the church bell. The sound of bells had become a curse. Each toll meant another body to bury. But one man, Father Alden, swore the bell would protect his flock. So each night, as rats crawled beneath pews, he climbed the tower to ring it. The townsfolk begged him to stop, saying the sound called the plague instead of banishing it. Soon, one by one, their skin turned gray, and black boils spread like ink across their faces. Still, the bell tolled every midnight, hollow, endless, like laughter from the sky. On the seventh night, the rope snapped mid-ring, and Alden plunged into the tower's pit. He landed beside the decaying corpses of the bellkeepers who came before him. In the morning, villagers found the bell ringing on its own. No wind, no hand. They sealed the tower with stones and lime, believing the sound was a spirit trapped inside. But the ringing never stopped. Even through stone, its faint echo haunted the air. Years later, plague returned, and the bell rang louder than before. Monks who entered to silence it came out bleeding from the ears, eyes black as soot. They said Alden's spirit had fused with the bronze. A man of faith turned into metal. By the next winter, Dunsmuir was empty. The church still stood, ringing for no one. Travelers who passed the ruins said they could hear it even without sound, a vibration inside the bones. And so the legend spread of the bell that would never stop tolling for the living.